this show, Rock, Paper, Scissors, it's Nickelodeon, so one would think it's more like for the kids stuff. But then I'm watching the show, I'm like, this is for everybody. Like anyone can enjoy this, and especially like the type of humor. I'm like, feels very familiar because I was like looking at your credits and like you've done Robot Chicken, so I'm like, oh, there we go. All right, and
Well,
so
thank you for
yeah.
saying that. First of all, John, I just want to say because we do write this show to be a co-viewing show, and also we're sort of writing it for us because we have to watch these episodes like 400 times before they're done, so we have to be laughing at them over and over. But thank you, I appreciate you saying that.
I'm also
Oh
really
yeah.
glad you said that, and we got that during the recording process. We would have guest stars come in and they'd go, "Who is the show for?" And at the time we were like, "Oh no, I don't know if that's good." But no, it's I think it's an example of this show really is for everyone. My dad, who's in his 70s, loves this show and he's very critical. And so I think there's something, like you said, there's something for everyone in the show.
Oh yeah, because the concept rock paper scissors, it's a great thing. Like kids, they'll watch it just to see these animated characters come to life, and then you have the other jokes that just touches on everything. So from making lawsuits to
Mhm.
algorithms, it's got everything. And what was it like just writing this? Because I feel like it's just a lot of fun. You get to just craft everything.
It's fun and it's hard because we're trying to, like a lot of these storylines can be really wacky and go to these crazy places, but at the same time, Kyle and I are very much trying to make sure that every episode has a story, that the plots are working. We try to get a lot of story beats into 10 minutes and 45 seconds. But at the end of the day, when we watch these, we're just genuinely pleased with how they've all come out.
Yeah.
Oh
And I'm
yeah.
glad that you say that because, like, going off of what Josh said, you want a really grounded personal story because our episodes go in insane, wacky places. And so if you didn't have that, it would just be wacky nonsense and it would be unwatchable. So it's like trying to anchor that insanity down with a grounded story, I think makes for a good episode.
Oh yeah, there's one of my favorites, a pizza episode, just because I love pizza.
Mhm.
And so, what was that like crafting the different? Because rock and paper, they're eating pizza, and they tell Scissors, "You gotta get to work, or else you're not gonna enjoy pizza time with us." And so, I'm pretty sure you guys are a fan of pizzas.
The most enjoyable part of that, honestly, was seeing the art for it because we knew we wanted to do. Kyle and I had pitched it to each other at some point of just like, what this would be a funny way for them to try to motivate Scissors that would then get back at them. And when I believe Bob Boyle did the first, he was our supervising producer director. He did the first drawings of larger rock and paper and the stages of it, and we were just like, this is going to be gold.
It's going to be gold. And also in the recording process, you also need to pitch that to the actors where it's like, all right, Tom and Ron, I need 20 seconds of gagging and vomit sounds. And they go, what? And we go, trust us, trust us, trust us. And so when they see it for the first time, that's always a treat.
That's funny to have to like ask that, especially if it's something in the realm of animation. There's gonna be some crazy, wacky stuff that happens in animated shows.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
speaking of the actors, what was that like in the casting process? Were they like your top picks, or was there like an audition?
Yeah, it was surprisingly easy. At the time, we chalked it up to COVID because we were like, oh, everyone's just available right now. But Kyle and I were driving back from a meeting at Nickelodeon, and they had asked us to think about who we would want to play the characters. And the first two people we thought of were Ron Funches and Thomas Lennon for their respective roles. And then Scissors was a little trickier just because he's a character who we wrote to be a jerk, but we also knew, okay, with that, to make him likable, you have to make him very vulnerable. And so we needed someone who could play both of those sides. And we had worked with Carlos Alazraqui in the past on a different animated show, and he had knocked it out of the park there. So we brought him in. He did a bunch of options for the voice of Scissors, and we went, this one, you got it. And he made the character shine. And it's the same thing with the side characters too. I mean, or the recurring characters like Melissa Villasenor is great as Pencil. She was also like top choice. And Lou, the landlord garbage can, we wrote that for Eddie Pepitone. Like, had he not said yes, I don't know who would be our second choice for that
We
character.
might not have a landlord, I think, if we did not get Eddie Pepitone.
We
We're
might
like,
have thrown
he's a
out the
rant
character.
machine. We need him.
Yeah, well, I love the concept of the landlord being a garbage can. So, and then the episode with Lou, he wants to be a pop star. So, yeah, there's parts of being grounded like, oh, let's have them have an actual landlord, and then go outlandish with the whole pop star thing. So, how does that even start? Like, what's the concept first?
Well, that was the first Lou episode, as we've very lazily titled it. We don't spend, by the way, we don't spend any time thinking of title names. It's a waste of time.
Yeah.
We have other things to do. But, that was the first Lou episode, and it came from like, all right, well, Lou is a character who's constantly going to make their lives harder. And so let's think of what is the hardest thing and he takes out his anger and frustration on rock, paper, scissors, because his life is very miserable. And so we're like, all right, well, what is, because he has a catchphrase, he constantly raises the rent. What is the hardest thing that they could possibly try to do to Lou to get him to lower the rent? And that was kind of where we started.
And by the way, I sort of, to a question you may or may not have been asking earlier, sometimes the way we come up with the property of the character is sort of a little bit based on like what it feels like to us. Like we've had a lot of landlords who were like, oh, these people are garbage. And so we go, all right, make them a garbage.
Not saying that all landlords are garbage people, but the ones that
Certainly
we have absolutely been.
Don't come after us, landlords.
Yeah, we're not trying to piss off the landlords.
And it was the same thing in our pilot presentation, which is online, where we were like, okay, we need a threat to their friendship. What's threatening? A shark. So that's sometimes how those things come about.
Oh yeah, and the first episode, the birthday police. I just always love the whole police, like in conversations. Oh, like the fashion police and all that. And so you just turned that, you brought it to life. So what was the idea behind that? Like that something just popped up.
So that was one that part of the credit goes to my friend David, because when we were 15 years old, we would go to BJ's restaurant, and he would say, it's his birthday, and point to me to get free cake, to get those free Pazookies. And it stressed me out when I was a kid, and we would get into arguments about it. And I would be like, stop doing this, because they might ask for my ID. And he's like, what do you think is going to happen? And I was like, I don't know, birthday police are coming. And so I just thought that was a funny idea. And I wrote that down in a document that I've had on my computer for like 20 years. And when we were doing the show, I'm just reviewing like old comedy ideas I've had. And I went, that would be great for this show.
Yeah, I love that you used to have like a list of just comedy ideas to do.
You have to.
Yeah.